Good evening, everyone. I am Teresa Smith, and I call the May 7th, 2025 Parent and Community Advisory Council meeting to order. Ms. Wilson, can you please take roll?
Yes. Rebecca Brown. And please, if you are on the line, please come off and mute and speak up and say present. Rebecca Brown.
Can you hear me?
Sharice.
Yes.
Yes, I can now. Sharice Holden. Reverend Dr. Evelyn Huggins. Carletta Lundy. Mashira Durden. Latanza Wilson. Present. Kaylin Lobo Correa. Christopher Smith. Arkimbra Lawrence.
Present.
Thank you. Teresa Smith.
Present.
Dolores Millhouse.
Present.
Ilsaida Hinton.
Present.
Sade Davis. Dr. Sheila Jackson.
Present.
And Robin Welsh.
Present.
Ms. Wilson, do we have
At 8, we do not have a quorum.
We do not have a quorum to conduct business today. We are not conducting our regularly scheduled meeting this evening due to not having a quorum. We do have 2 presentations, and therefore we would like to hear from our presenters. Tonight, there will be an update from Dr. Baldwin from Transportation Services, and then there will be an overview from Mr. Turner with the Integrity and Compliance Office. Dr. Baldwin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Good evening, members of our PCAT. Thank you for the privilege to speak with you a little bit tonight and share some transportation updates. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully you will see that. All right, can everyone see my screen?
No.
No? Okay, let's try again.
Yes.
How about now? There we go. Okay. Some things. Okay, so straight. Here we go. So tonight, I would like to just provide some information, update on our implementation phase 1, prioritize recommendations for the 3rd quarter, and additionally, we will provide an update on the progress of the phase 2 prioritized recommendations that will be implemented in the 25-26 school year. For the 3rd quarter, our metrics highlighting both our progress and the continued challenges we face. So starting with our ridership, from December 2024 through March 2025, we have assigned 616 more students compared to the previous quarter. Understandably that these figures reflect planned data. What's scheduled in our system, which serves as the basis for the operational planning and analysis. Next, looking at our trip utilization, there was no change between the 2nd and the 3rd quarter. And the trip utilization primarily deals with the number of trips that our drivers do daily. And a trip is equal to a school run. So if a school has 10 runs, that's 10 trips, and our buses will take just that many. Our seat utilization presents a challenge. What we've seen is a dip in this quarter. While it's a minimal dip, we attribute the change to our McKinney-Vento population. These students are often assigned to vans rather than buses. And since the vans are counted in our total vehicle inventory, they impact the occupancy calculations and reduce the overall utilization rate. I will tell you, for our McKinney-Vento population, last week, the numbers were 1,445 students identified in the McKinney-Vento program. And we have routed 1,407 of that number. And so this goes to the regular school bus, what we're using in our vans, and also what we're utilizing with our contractors to transport these students. We are continuing to use our bus stop consolidation efforts to yield results. We reduced the number of unique stops by 279 for this third quarter. This is directly tied to the ongoing strategy for stop consolidation to help improve on-time performance. Our trips have increased by 31 this quarter, primarily due to our McKinney-Vento assignments. As expected, with more trips comes an increase in our routes, which are defined as pairing of our morning and afternoon trips. We've added 16 additional routes this quarter as such. The active vehicles that we use remain stable with just a slight increase from 940 to 939. What's important that every trip for assignment, it's important that every trip gets assigned a vehicle. And when we need that for proper tracking within our GPS system. On our staffing side, we did see an increase of 16 available drivers. However, we still face a significant staffing challenge. We still have roughly 156 routes without a permanent driver. And this still remains a priority for both my department and our HR department. Lastly, we made some small but meaningful improvement in addressing our bell time imbalance. We're moving 3 trips that previously created inefficiencies in our scheduling. Overall, the numbers don't reflect perfection. They do reflect progress. And that's something that we have stated since day one. We started this, realizing that we didn't get this way overnight, and we're not going to be able to fix it overnight. So we always are working for progress, not perfection. Steady movement, measurable movement in the right direction. The next set of slides, I'm going to just briefly go over what we talk about with unique stops, our utilization. Just gives the numbers of what I just spoke about in our summary. The bell time alignment and our balances. The goal is to work to have an equal number of trips per tier. So if you see here, tier 1 with 1,316 trips that we had in October 23, but when we started the school year for 24, we were at 999 for the first tier, and 875 for the second, and 861 for the third tier. So we want to try to have a balance of trips per tier. Same here. This deals with our PM. The PM is a little bit more because of the ending times between our elementary schools and our secondary schools. And just a little back history, with the 3 tiers that we started 7:30, 8:30, and 9:30, we have 6 different end times because the elementary school day is 6 hours and 10 minutes, and the secondary day is 6 hours and 30 minutes. The staffing challenges, what was mentioned before, we did see an increase, but we have strategically reduced our open full-time equivalent positions and redirected these resources to create an additional 25 non-CDL driver positions. This move was a cost neutral, and it aligns with our effort to expand flexible staffing options in response to our ongoing shortages. So these non-CDL drivers we use to drive our vans. So we have a fleet of 16. We're working to get to 50 of our non-CDL vans. And so we're trying to match the personnel with the resources. We have an additional 20 on order for FY26. So despite our efforts, even with the continued consolidation of routes, we're still facing a significant number of open routes, currently at 172. We've made some operational improvements, but the staffing component still remains relatively flat, despite our pressing challenges. So looking ahead to school year 25-26, we have phase 2 prioritized recommendations from our action plan. As part, we're pleased to share that several areas of meaningful progress. First, we initiated the search for a new parent communication app to replace StopFinder. To guide this process, we've launched a district-wide survey to gather feedback on the current platform and understand what families want in a future app. In other words, we hear you. We've heard we've made a gallant effort to really work to manage the app and provide the services, but things are still not working to our advantage. And so we are actively looking. I'm hoping that everybody received the survey and had a chance to respond. I'm very excited that we had over 3,500 families responding to the survey. Right now, we have analyzed some of the data, and I will share that with you here in just a second. There. Second, we are exploring the implementation of hub stops to improve service for students attending our specialty schools. This includes developing a partnership with the Prince George's County Department of Parks and Recreation to potentially utilize their community centers as designated stop locations. These strategic stops are aimed to reduce the ride time and support more efficient routing. We anticipate sharing additional information later this year with an update to the board and also to our OBAFA committee. So let's take a look at the results of the parent survey. The survey here shows significant concerns with our current app. Over 60% of the users reported issues with inaccurate or delayed GPS tracking. And I understand that because that's directly related to how we have to cover due to our shortage of drivers. 55% experience unreliable notifications. Among those who have not used the app, nearly 30% were unaware it even existed. While others cited difficulty assessing or navigating it, a large majority of our families expressed a desire for improved features such as real-time bus tracking, estimated arrival times, and push notifications. Our team is going to use this feedback as we review content and evaluate new apps, address these gaps, and be able to come back and present to you a recommended solution that clearly addresses the needs and desires of our families and our communities and moving forward with this. And so this data really just, it helps me go after and talk with vendors, because now I have information that I can share with them that says, this is what we want, and I need you to produce this and show me how it's going to be done. And so we've had some great conversations with vendors. I'm excited of those conversations. Not many have met the challenge, I will tell you that. So when I come back with you and tell you, you can best believe this is going to be a good service moving forward. So just in review with the HubStop collaboration, here we are working to, we want to work with a pilot with 4 schools: Door Kennedy, Phyllis E. Williams, Overlook, and Maya Angelou. These schools are experiencing extended commute times. These 4 schools have some of the largest program boundaries of all the schools in the system. For example, the P.E. Williams boundary goes from Laurel down to 214. And now that group is they're finishing the year at Robert Goddard. Next year, they will be back home at their location on near Harry S. Truman. So that presents some challenges for us in terms of ride time. So we're looking at what we can do to make that a little bit more efficient with all of our families. And so that's one of the reasons why we're looking at our community centers and trying to use those as a safe haven stop where parents can drop students off in a safe environment, protected environment, and keep moving to work from that standpoint. So to address this, the 3 things that we want to share and focus on are definitely reducing the ride times, making it more efficient, centralized pickups, improve our driver utilization. And that's really where it hurts, because some of these routes, these trips, they start at 7 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock. That means I can only use them one time for one trip, because they spend the entire morning picking up kids for one of these 4 schools. Reality, I really need them at the 7:30 tier doing a trip. I need them at the 8:30 tier doing a trip, in addition to the 9:30 tier doing a trip. And right now we can't do that. And so this makes it more efficient if we can reduce that ride time. My goal is to reduce the ride time to 60 minutes or less. So that's the challenge of my team. And what we're looking at is really looking at our boundaries. We're able to see our hotspots where students, our population density occurs most, and guaranteed there's a community center nearby. That's one thing I like about being here in Prince George's County, is that the service centers, the community centers are in abundance. And so we want to be able to take advantage of it. In our preliminary conversations that we've had with Park and Planning, they like what we're offering. I think it's a great collaboration that we can work toward. And so here again, we're still working out the logistics. And once those things are finalized, we'll be able to bring it back and kind of talk with the families about this as well. And keep in mind, this year is a pilot. So we may experience some ups and downs, but because it's a pilot, we may be able to pivot here and there. So as we look to bring other schools on board with this. All right, I have said enough. I will stop and answer any questions that you may have to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Dr. Baldwin. That was an excellent update. And just for the record, I did get clarity that we can ask questions. So if there are questions from those who are present today, please raise your hand and I will acknowledge you.
Just before the questions, Dr. Baldwin, can you stop sharing, please?
I certainly can.
Ms. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin, for the presentation. Just a quick question about input. So I know that the survey went out to parents and families. Were students at all asked, like high school students, I'm thinking, for their input? I know that some of them have some really good ideas. Just wondering if you all are working with them at all.
We sent the survey to all of our families who have registered school messenger accounts.
Okay.
So we hope that it went to the family, it didn't go to individuals. Whatever email account that the family had, that's where the survey was sent.
Okay.
So student input.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Millhouse?
Yes, Mr. Baldwin, absolutely. This was great. Great information. I really like the idea of the hub stops. And the question that I had was to explain it a little more, but you did explain it. It would be a location where the child could be dropped off, almost, I guess, like, before and after care, concept.
Yes, it's right now. We have presented that in options as a parent waiting
Mhm.
or having that ability to drop off after a certain period of time. It would not be considered like before school care or after school care. There was a window, but this is also in conversation about is there opportunity for that center to actually offer before and after school care?
Mhm.
So
Or
we're looking at some challenges. We're looking at different options of how that would play out.
But that would be fee-based.
More than likely, yes, ma'am. Mhm.
And so so I do appreciate when you stated the 60 minutes or less. A measurable goal is always something that piques my interest. But I would like to know when you show the tiers, um, what were the key factors? Because it was impressive to see how you were able, because you said you didn't want that much difference in between each tier. What were the key factors that, help you all reduce I guess the transportation differences between each tier? Like to get them, because I think it was at 54 was the number, the difference that was there.
Yes. So this begins. This is the pre-routing stage where we are right now, and to balance the tiers, how we got from October 23 to August 24. In October 23, we had over 1,300 trips at the first tier. In August 24, we were at 999. So roughly a reduction of 300 trips. What we did, we had trip consolidations where we were able to combine trips, and we also shift schools. This was the big piece where we actually shifted schools no more than 30 minutes. So if a school had 15 or 20 trips and we shifted it from a tier 1 to tier 2 to help balance it, that's what it went toward.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yes.
Thank you for that. And the other piece, back to the hub, since we're looking at the community centers, is there a way that if we are willing to really work and engage with parents, that we are communicating an opportunities for parents to maybe even volunteer at those hub sites?
Oh, yes,
What-
ma'am. Absolutely.
Right, right. And
Uh,
so that in my mind, so we're not, because we don't have any money, right? Because it's so tight.
mhm.
But if we can make sure that parents know in advance about what's happening um, once, I guess every school, at the beginning of the school year, I guess July is when it opens up to do the volunteer work again for the next school year, that parents need to get it in during the summer. So we're not at a crunch period if that is an opportunity. So we're creating some pathway and supporting parents to, if they need to get fingerprinting done, then to move into making sure that they do require training for volunteering. so we can really support this as a community because when you're reducing drive time for a student 60 minutes or more, that's, you said 60 minutes or less or 60 minutes or more?
60 minutes or less.
Okay, with 60 minutes or less. There's still a lot of time. An hour is a lot of time not to have a child on the bus. And so I think that's huge. If the hub stops could be something that could support that.
I will tell you, Ms. Millhouse, right now, and I'm not sure if families know, especially our specialty families, that the ride time is expected to be 90 minutes currently.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So that's that work that we want to reduce it. So I can use drivers on all 3 tiers. So I got a mutual piece of this.
Okay, and do you think you're going to get an influx of applicants with the furloughs and layoffs that are coming down the pipe? Or do you see a peak right now in application?
Well, I do see a peak. A lot of the peak right now is because we ramped up our job fairs and the number of classes that we teach throughout the month. So we've seen a little increase. Right now, we are back kind of where we were last year. I'm looking for 100 drivers by July 15th. In addition, a minimum of 100 drivers. And so that's the task, the challenge I've asked of our HR department. And they're doing their best to make it. Matter of fact, I'm just coming from a job fair today at Eleanor Roosevelt a little while ago. We had one there. So it's constant work, man. It is. It is a constant task. And I implore each of you, if you have folks or reach into your community, our churches, we need bodies. We need folks, and we're doing what we can do internally, but this is where that collaborative effort helps to bring folks in, even if it's a part-time, volunteer, anything. We need our bodies. We need bodies to help, and we do all of the training, and we cover the majority of the costs for obtaining your CDL.
Well, thank you so much and I know you all have been working extremely hard, so I really appreciate it, and especially taking on my calls and emails and really helping me with my transportation needs. So thank you so much. And however, if you have flyers that you can share with PCAC, and that would be great. That would be really great.
I will.
Thank you, Ms. Millhouse. Ms. Wilson, I see your hand, and then I have just a few questions to ask as well. So, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you so much. I only had 2 questions. The first one was in reference to when you speak about trip consolidations, are these what are referred to as the double routes? And if they are, I think you already had mentioned that you're aware that sometimes the trips are taking about an hour and a half. So it's just a thing of, sometimes they're actually, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I think it would be helpful for parents when you do have these double routes, because from the experience that I've seen, there are certain common double routes that you will see when they do buddy up. It seems like they only run the route one way. So if you're one of the your students is one of the ones that is usually on there for the 1.5, 2 hours, it would be nice if they would kind of flip-flop sometimes for some fairness, so that your child gets home and can do, work and do all the things that families need to do, as opposed to always being on the short end of the stick. And so you kind of spoke to that, but if you wanted to speak a little bit more there, that would be wonderful. And I just have one other question, comment.
Sure. I can talk. The doubles that we occur is as a result of the driver shortage. So we are asking our drivers to do more with less. So that means more bodies on the bus and extended ride times. What the challenge was using the current system is when we have to pick up that extra trip, that double trip, we couldn't directly reflect it in our map and in the timing. So many times we get it, well, my stop says 7 o'clock, but the bus comes at 6:30, or bus is coming at 7. And for us to manipulate that would throw off other times. And so that's a barrier within the system that we've been trying to work through. Hopefully we'll have a solution for next year, so it would not be as troublesome for our families in working with that app. But I get it. I know the doubles that occur. Sometimes you want to switch them out, and that's something that I can take back to my team and share, because right now what we have is probably what we're going to finish the year with doubles. And we want to be able to actively capture that within the system and be able to update times, because I would love for you to be able to use that Stop Finder app and see that time that's posted there be that actual time. It's not that case right now, 100%. So, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. And the second thing I wanted to note, and my apologies, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. Will these community center hubs allow for children to kind of like self-check-in? So, you know, with a lot of changes with your parents that are a part of the federal government going back into the office, some of them have set hours now and they don't have the flexibility that they used to even be home to see their children go to school. And so if they are going to their bus stops now, obviously their parents are not there. So would this be a system where the children are able to just, you know, walk down to these community centers and self-check-in, so to speak, as opposed to the normal, you know, we did before care and after care when my son was in elementary school, and you obviously had to sign them in, sign them out, but you would not be able to necessarily sign them in, and depending on some circumstances, the question is, will you be able to sign them out time-wise? So, you know, is that something that you guys are taking into consideration?
It is something definitely that we're checking in for consideration. One thing for us is accountability. So every student will be assigned a bus stop, just like they are now, that community center. So that's accountability for us for to be able to tell where our kids are. Number two, within our system, I want to be able to give a kid a card, an RF reader card, where they could actually scan on the bus. And you get a pop-up on the app that says, hey, my child is on the bus and my child is at school. And when they scan on the bus and scan off the bus, I want to get us there. We won't be able to get there next year, but I want to be able to get us to a point where kids can do that self-check with a reader card that you get a notification or a push notification knowing where your child is. So yes, we are talking about that with our community, with park and planning.
And I would say thank you so much. That is actually, you know, a level of comfort knowing that you guys are actually thinking ahead to some unique type of technology to be able to utilize to help parents. And so with that, I will yield back to the chair.
Thank you. Dr. Baldwin, I realize that tonight probably won't cut it as far as obtaining information from you. So I would love the opportunity to follow up with your staff to possibly have another meeting with PCAC, because ideally everybody isn't here and there may be other questions from our representatives that need to be asked, especially in light of this pilot for the hubs. I think that some key questions was asked this evening, but there may need to be some follow-up.
Chair Smith, I'm fine if you wanted to get questions from the group and email them to me, or go through the board exec and send those to me. I will be happy to work on them and send them back to you. And anytime you want me to come back and talk, just send me an invitation. We'll be happy to come back and share some more information with you.
Awesome. One quick question I did want to ask relates to the GPS tracking, which I know is all tied to this tracker, but it is a pain in the parents' butt. So it's really good to hear that you guys are considering to get a new app. But one of the, I guess, flaws, I'm going to call it a flaw, because the functionality is there as it relates to tracking the bus, but it's tracking the correct bus. So my question is, how are you guys addressing when a bus is assigned to a route temporarily so that it can be tracked? That's the first question. And then I was just curious, with your report, based on the survey results, it says 63% reported challenges with GPS tracking. I wanted to know, how does that correlate with your internal data? Because that number is only from the parent side. Is it about the same? Is it higher? Would assume it's higher, since we know that parents can't find the bus. So
Correct. So one thing I will tell you, the app does work, but it has to be in some ideal situations for it to work. And here is the crutch. We make a point, like I was very hard on my team to ensure that every vacant route had a vehicle, a bus assigned to it for tracking purposes. Because now we substitute by vehicle number, right? So if I got bus 123 taking route ABC, and now I need bus 456 to take ABC, it's just a flip. You know, I can take one substitute. So we weren't doing that before. And it was hit or miss if you saw the bus on the map. Right now, of the 5,600 trips we have, there's a vehicle, a bus number attached to every last one. Now, my problem is the system can't necessarily capture all of the trips that are assigned to it at a tier. And I'll give you my worst case scenario right now. The 7:30 bell time has the most trips. And what happens, what we have to do to cover that is a planned double. So that means we automatically assign a bus 2 trips. Typically, it's a high school trip and an elementary trip. So right off the bat, that's 2. What's happening, I have to assign an additional high school and additional elementary. So at that 7:30 tier, I have 4 trips assigned to that one bus. As it's transmitting GPS data around, the system doesn't know where to associate each GPS event to. So sometimes you will catch it and sometimes you won't. And that's the problem. And that's the crutch that we have. It doesn't happen in like every trip, but when we have to substitute and we're adding more than 2 trips to a bus, we run into those issues. And so somewhere I'm going to find a solution to that, because that's our reality right now with the driver shortage. So we're going to have to assign extra trips to our buses at their tier times. And that's our reality. So I'm researching what app can handle that workload. That's our reality right now. So I get it. I will happy to explain it to our families. It's not a problem. We're going to be transparent and tell you here are components why it doesn't work. You know, and then there's some sides of it that do work. So I appreciate you bringing that question up. I hope I shed a little light on that, and just know that that's one of my own pet peeves for the vendors to handle that, and that's one of the scenarios I share with them.
Awesome.
Yes. So
thank you. Let me just take, I see 2 hands, but let me take a quick pause. I know I have more questions, but I won't be able to answer them tonight. So I will make sure that they get over to you, because I'm just thinking about timing and moving the meeting along. Mia, yes. Can you tell me if our guest, Mr. Turner, is here?
Yes, he is.
He is. So, Ms. Lawrence, if I could hold your question and send that along. But Ms. Hilton, I did want to give you an opportunity. I saw your hand. So if you could ask just one question, if you have more than that, we can send it via email. You're on mute. Ms. Hilton, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. I say she can ask her question and I'll send you mine and then.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll be respectful of time. So I'll send my question as well, because I think it's going to require it's a little nuanced. So I'll put it in an email. But thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you all. Oh, Ms. Walker, I see your hand.
I know, and I'm gonna be respectful for time. I get it. You have another guest. Just really quickly, I would love if, after all the questions come together, your Q&A, if you wanna, send it to, Mia, I know you all do, and then copy the two board liaisons, because we can make sure, and Mia can help us to send it to the board members and make sure the Q&As also get into our own newsletters or however we communicate to, the public as well. That'll be helpful because you all are asking amazing questions. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for offering that. So we'll make sure we get that done. So Mr. Baldwin, thank you again for giving us this update. It was a lot of fruitful information. So we would definitely be following up, and we will probably have another meeting with you.
Absolutely. I would love it. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you guys.
Awesome. No problem. Thank you. All right. So the next presentation that we have, let me just get to my note here. All right, is from the Integrity and Compliance Office. Mr. Turner is here to provide an overview about oversight with PGCPS's execution on policies and fiscal operations. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Smith. So first I want to say greetings to everybody, and I'm glad to be here. The Parent and Community Advisory Council is obviously a very important organization as we try to make sure that we're doing all the best for our scholars. So again, I am Frank Turner. I am the Integrity and Compliance Officer for the Prince George's County Public School System. I know I was told, I think before I came, that I had about 10 minutes. Hopefully I can go over that a little bit, but I'll be respectful of time as well. But let me tell you a little bit about myself, because I want it to be that we're connected in a more personable level. So a little bit about my background. I was, raised in Maryland. So I'm a Maryland guy. I had spent about 26 years in federal law enforcement between IRS Criminal Investigation Division and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I was in senior management and in IRS Criminal Investigation Division, and then at the FBI, I was leading a forensic accounting team. So that's my background per se, but this has always been a desire of mine to get into education. My father was a professor, college professor at Morgan. My wife has traveled around with me and has always taught special education. She's a special ed teacher right now in a neighboring district. So I can always, do hypotheticals and pick her brain in the evening. So it's always that's always helpful to have that at home, that resource. And she's got a master's in education administration. So that's a little bit about me. 2 kids, both go to college at state colleges in Maryland. One goes to the University of Maryland, College Park. The other one goes to Towson University. So I'm very much into Maryland education. So that's a little bit about my background. So I'm going to share my screen and then go through a presentation in regards to the Office of Integrity and Compliance. So let me share my screen.
And Mr. Turner, if you feel that you need more than 10 minutes, by all means, do as you please.
Okay, noted. You see how, can you guys see my screen?
We can.
Okay, excellent. So the Office of Integrity and Compliance is basically like, the office has been referred to, I've heard it referred to a couple of different ways. I've heard it referred to as the Inspector General Office for PGCPS. I've heard it referred to as the Watchdog Office. It seems to be that actually, and it was created by the General Assembly. It was created at the state level. And it seems to be that was a little ahead of the curve, because I don't know if everybody's been tracking, but I know Howard County just created an Inspector General position. I know that Anne Arundel County had a Inspector General position that didn't make it through, but now they're going to go after it again based upon what's happened with Prince George's County and what's happened with Howard County. So that's what I hear. So I think that this is, you know, it's something that's not uncommon to have, obviously, when you have big institutions, especially with a lot of funding involved, to have this type of office. I was appointed to the Office of Integrity and Compliance as an Integrity and Compliance Officer in January of 2024. So I hit a year on board in this past January. I brought on my first staff person after, you know, listening and learning for some time, getting to know the system, getting to know the board. Of course, I had to put the offices together. There's 2 office locations, you know, because it was a brand new, unestablished office, you know, had never existed before. So of course I had to write the position descriptions and determine what I needed to make this office what it was expected to be. So the mission of the Integrity and Compliance Office, or the Office of Integrity and Compliance, is to improve compliance, rigorous monitoring and enforcement of all applicable policies, procedures, and laws to prevent and detect fraud, waste, and abuse of funds and property. The vision that I have for the office was to, you know, provide continuous assistance in securing the highest standards of integrity and compliance while promoting trust and ensuring accountability into the future. That's, you know, obviously we always want to do things like, I think I was thinking about something that Dr. Baldwin said when he just presented related to transportation. We just wanted to get better. It probably will never be perfect, but we always want things to get better. The team is made up of dedicated investigators and financial analysts with specialized backgrounds and credentials. I'd have 2 people on my staff, my deputy and my new investigator that just started on Monday, that are bilingual, speak both Spanish and English. You know, I know that about 40% of the population in Prince George's County is Spanish speaking with their background and culturally. So thought that was important. And then I have a compliance and audit specialist, and she's led internal audit teams before. So that was great to be able to recruit her and get her on board. And she's you know, she's a resident of Prince George's County, as is my latest investigator. So I'm just really excited about the team, and it's finally coming together. So again, the team has expertise in law enforcement, audit, accounting, compliance, risk analysis, fraud examination, and legal fields to ensure proper oversight of PGCPS execution on policies and fiscal operations. So as of Monday, I have that investigator number 2 added to the Integrity and Compliance Office. So you'll see that there's a financial administrator / deputy. And then I have an executive administrative assistant that I brought on from within Prince George's County Public School System. It was not that position. I did not want to be an outside hire. So I brought that came internally. Really happy to have her on board as well. She joined me last July. And then the compliance and audit specialist who joined me last September, and my first investigator I got in December. And then, like I said, my second investigator came in on this past Monday. So here's what we do and what we don't do. So we're in place to improve the effectiveness and efficiency. So that's programs, policies, practices, and operations. And then we're also looking to prevent, investigate, and report waste, fraud, and abuse of property or funds, like I said previously. We examine, evaluate, and report the adequacy and effectiveness of internal controls. Those internal controls are mostly more system-wide, more, it could be, let's say, across all high schools, or it could be across a program areas like special education. It could be, you know, it's not going to be something that is at the school-based level, and it's a more of a routine internal control that would be handled by internal audit. We also are looking to improve employee compliance with applicable law, policy, and ethical standards of conduct. We can conduct administrative investigations, do budget analysis. We provided a budget analysis for this current budget to the Prince George's County Council, and gave them our input and analysis on the current budget request. But most of it was, honestly, we gave them some things to think about, but we really tried to support the ask of the Board of Education and the superintendent. A lot of what we do is not just to investigate, but it's also to partner with the system to, you know, to help them get accomplished what they want to accomplish. You know, as long as, of course, there's adherence to compliance and their own policies and everything else. So we do performance audits. We have a kickoff to a audit coming up. This will be the first big audit that we're doing. That kickoff is on May the 14th, so next week. So we're pretty excited about that. What we don't do is investigate employee misconduct related to sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. So there's, you know, under the Office of Human Resources, there's an office for that. And then we don't conduct routine audits on internal controls and processes. That would be internal audit that would do that. We don't investigate inappropriate relationships between students and teachers. We don't now, okay, well, I'll say something at the end once I get through reading these. We don't create policies and procedures. So we make recommendations on what the policies and procedures should do, which should be, and then make sure that there's no violations of law or at the federal, state, or local level for policies and procedures that are put in place. The Board of Education is the entity that would obviously be dealing with setting policies for the school system. And then the superintendent would obviously do the administrative procedures to enact and support the policies that came from the Board of Education. Safety and security inspections. There's an office for that, you know, for the Safety and Security Office headed by Gary Cunningham. So that's PGCPS facilities, that would be his area. And then perform criminal investigations on juvenile delinquency, security threats, violent incidents, or other criminal events. Now, on that column of things that we don't do, if it were to be that there was an office that wasn't doing it, that they were violating policy or law and doing one of those things, then we would get involved. There's also certain scenarios where we may partner with safety and security. We just had to do that on a Saturday. I can't get into the specifics of that incident, but we had to get in. One of my investigators had to be on site at a school this past Saturday, and with safety and security for a matter we had to handle there. So let's see. So I think that kind of summarizes that. But again, if there was something where it was systematic, or a group of schools, or a group of people in leadership, or something like that, and it was in a column on the right-hand side, then maybe we would get involved. But otherwise, on the routine things on the right-hand side, we would not get involved in those types of scenarios. How we gather information and subpoena authority. So we, the OIC receives complaints and tracks complaints through various channels. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But our complaint process, you could either mail something to us. We take walk-ins. It could be through our email address, oic@pgcps.org. It could be through the phone number we have set up just for complaints to come in. So we wanted to have as many channels as possible. And when you go online and access the complaint form, you actually, there's a form to fill out, and there's some questions that are asked to make sure that we're starting on the right foot with the complaint, and we get as much information as needed as soon as possible. As far as one of the things I told my staff, I said, I don't want it to be a scenario where complaints come in and people who are complainants don't know what's going on. So I say that again. My staff knows that I expect a response in 10 days from the time a complaint comes in to either say that we received it or and just to acknowledge receipt. So you guys may say, well, why does it need to be 10 days? If I email it, some can email, it can be emailed right back. Well, if it's mailed to me and it comes in via the mail, then that gives us that latitude to say, okay, well, it came in. So then there's not an expectation. Oh my gosh, I dropped something in the mail. It's been 2 days and I haven't heard back, right? So that gives that that buffer for responding back to a complaint. Now, if the complaint comes to us and we determine that we should not be handling this complaint for whatever the reason, it could be for, like I said, that column that we just went over, then if we refer it, we're going to monitor it. And when we refer it elsewhere, we're saying that it needs to be, something needs to be said back to us within 30 days of referring it out to another office as to what you're doing with that complaint. Because we consider when it comes into the OIC, then we have some handle of it. We don't want it to be that we just referred it and we're not monitoring it, so that we have a system set up to monitor when we refer complaints out. And then also another thing that in my standard operating procedures, another thing that happens is that the complaint is alerted of the referral. So you're told, okay, this needs to go to HR, right? This needs to go to safety and security. This needs to go to whatever the applicable office is. So that's a little bit about the receipt of complaints. The OIC may facilitate individual interviews. So this is interviews. We do interviews. We can do depositions and oaths, and we have subpoena authority. That's all in state law from when the office was created. So that's in Maryland state law that we have those authorities. Sharing information with the OIC. So the statutory authority to request from any PGCPS, this is in the state law too, PGCPS employee or official, any available document or other information concerning the school system's operations, budgets, and programs, or vendor contracts. So the employee would be, the rank and file employees. Of course, the officials would be the leadership. It could be the superintendent, it could be the Board of Education members, depending on what the scenario is. So that's what the statutory authority covers. And it said that, there will be a response promptly and without any interference to the OIC's request for information. So sometimes, there has to be a little bit of a negotiation, because a lot of times, we need something back, faster than maybe a certain office is used to responding. So we try to work with that office, but at the same time, as long as it's a reasonable request, then, we need this information back fast, because keep in mind, the whole system or this particular office may not know what's going on. So I need things to continue to move, and I need the work continue to flow. But I do work with folks on that inside the system and at the board level. So that's a little bit about the request for information, and of course we safeguard information. Confidential student information should not be shared with the OIC. We understand that. We run into some times where we were handling a matter and it was like we needed to see what the response was going to be by the school system, and they were like, well, this has to do with a special education scenario and IEP. And we were like, no, we don't need that information. We just need to know how you're gonna handle. We don't need to know what's in there. We just need to know how this is going to be handled. So we've clarified that a couple times, and everything has worked out fine. And then, so yeah, we're really, so the confidentiality is important. My whole staff has to sign a non-disclosure agreement with me. I set that up for day one, and they each take an oath of office that they sign on day one. So I just did that yesterday on for my newest investigator. What is considered fraud, waste, and abuse? These are our three primary areas. Of course, fraud is an intentional act or attempt to obtain something of value from the local school system or another person through willful misrepresentation. Fraud includes deception, concealment, or omission of information resulting in the school system suffering a loss and or perpetrator achieving a gain to which they are not normally entitled. Waste and abuse are definitely more subjective. Fraud is more clear cut, more black and white, as we may call it, but waste and abuse is they're definitely more subjective areas. So it's an inappropriate act or omission by an employee with control over or access to PGCPS property or funds that unreasonably deprives the local school system of value. Waste does not necessarily involve private use or personal gain, but involves needless, careless, or extravagant expenditures or mismanagement of resources. So again, more of a mismanagement of resources can be really, really subjective. Intentional, and then abuse is intentional misconduct or misuse of authority or position. Abuse also involves wrongful or improper use or destruction of PGCPS resources. What types of complaints should be reported? So this is more so kind of piggybacking on what we're talking about with waste, fraud, and abuse. So here's just a few examples of, some things that should be reported. There's wage theft. We heard about that. Heard about that somewhere else. I think it was that on the news recently. I'm not going to talk about that much, but that was some wage theft allegations there. Falsification, destruction of official records, of course, billing and payment requests, duplicate services or services not rendered. So this just gives you, I'm not going to go through all these, but this just gives you an idea of, and these examples are on my landing page, on the Office of Integrity and Compliance's landing page. So you can always go there and check them out. I got ahead of myself and I talked about how to submit a complaint. So yes, I am a resource to PCAT, right? I'm a resource to parents. I'm a resource to the community. I want, folks to know about the existence of the office. The office is new. This is the first school year that we've actually been in existence, you know, with a staff. So this is, you know, it was a great inaugural school year. We have done some things to publicize the office, but this is, you know, speaking to you all is a continuation of that process. We've reached out to multiple organizations. This is not the first time I've done after hours speaking. So, and then, you know, also did a presentation at the principals meeting. We've actually done Office of General Counsel retreat presentations to the Office of General Counsel, made multiple presentations to the Board of Education about what the office does. So, but this is a continuation of like, we talked to CASA and a bunch of, and I've met with a lot of the, done meet and greets with, obviously with county council members, with board members who have requested it. I've always offered it, and also with the heads of the unions. So again, we have incident reporting form. You can call the phone number and leave a voicemail if it's not answered by the executive administrative assistant. You can send an email if there's something that you want the Office of Integrity and Compliance to look at, or want me to know about, want the office to know about. You can mail stuff. And you know, just so you know, so at Sasser, we're in a trailer. So you know, so there's another location, like if somebody from the building, let's say at Sasser or from anywhere, wanted to come in and talk in person. That's why, you know, the county has been great, you know, gracious enough to let us have an office at Curry. So, you know, because the whole backside of Sasser could see if somebody walked to the Office of Integrity and Compliance, right, to come into the office. So this way you could go to where it's more of a neutral office, and you go to the building, and then you go, we all sit on the 3rd floor there. So this gives you some more, it's more anonymous if you want it to be like that and you don't want people to see you come into the Office of Integrity and Compliance. And that is basically a rundown of the office. We are currently working, you know, to try to do as much as we can. Let me stop sharing. Oh, here we go. There we go. Okay, so we are currently, you know, trying to. We've had a lot of cases this year, and we've had a lot of things that we've got into related to, you know, there could be like some soft spots in certain policies or administrative procedures. So we're trying to work with the system on that. So we're trying to, you know, balance between proactive and reactive. Some things, obviously, you know, we want to make sure that our complainants know that we're working on their items. So we're trying to complete as many cases as possible. Some of course, as you guys could probably imagine, some are more complicated or convoluted, and some are less. So we are working with that. We're also working on, you know, we've done some management advisories throughout the year to the school system, to the superintendent hierarchy on down. We've done some actually related to the board too, and trying to, you know, say to the board, hey, we see this way, and this may need to be a little stronger. And that's in a nutshell. I mean, there's a mid-year activity report that talks a little bit about, it's 15 pages. It's on the webpage. The next big report to come out will be the annual report, which will come out, we got to get through the end of the year first, because I can't even capture, our metrics until, June 30th, until the year is over. But I'm looking forward to showing the accomplishments of the office in its first year. So I'll be quiet now. I know I went over the 10 minutes, and see if you guys have any questions for me.
Well, Mr. Turner, thank you so much in the presentation. I think it provided a lot of clarity.
You're breaking up. Hello? Chair Smith, I can't hear you. Is it just mine, or is
No.
everybody else here?
No, it's not. And until
Okay.
Chair Smith comes back on, I'll jump in and state that she was sharing. Thank you. You provided a lot of clarity during this time. And until Chair Smith's come back, if we have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll go through and a round of questions.
Okay, so that means either everybody's tired or it
No, I think
wasn't it wasn't or it was very thorough.
I mean, I'm not going to say it was or was not. I'm just trying to look to see if there, it was very beneficial. It was a lot of information that you shared. But I do have a question. I wanted to give the floor to someone else. In looking at the Board of Education for the ethics panel, right? And then you have the Office of Integrity with you all, and then the internal audit. For me, I was just trying to really get a good understanding of how these groups seem to do very similar things, but very different. Like the Board of Education Ethics Panel is, the key role is to really focus on, I guess, any ethical conduct of the Board of Education. And your role is, or your team's role is more so focused on fraud, waste, and abuse. And then the internal audit group, we don't engage with that group, but it really is more about raising concerns. Do they bring the concerns to the OIC? Do you get concerns from the internal audit? Do you get concerns from the ethics panel? How do you all?
So the ethics panel.
What's the difference? I guess I want to just ask.
The ethics panel really has to do with their main core goal, and I'll see if Board Member Walker wants to chime in on this. But my understanding of their main goal has always been the financial disclosures. So they may handle some other things. I know there's an upcoming training for the ethics panel coming up in June. I think it's 7th. I'm not sure. So that's kind of their core area. The internal audit would be more, and I've actually, like, if you go to the PGCPS main page and click on report fraud at the top, it breaks out when you would go to the hotline, when you would go to internal audit, but when you would come to the OIC, and when you may want to go to the state IG for education. So basically what it says is, if it's more of a school-based scenario, then you want to talk to, they do a lot of, internal audit does a lot of audits related to the school activity funds. They do a lot of more the routine things. The audit that we're getting ready to start is a very big area audit I'm not saying that they don't do those too, but most of what we would be doing would be more in the investigative realm, because that's really the crux of, when you're looking at waste, fraud, and abuse, you're trying to investigate to see if any of that is actually occurring. So they would be, so mine would be more systematic wide, would be at a kind of the leadership, level, internal audit reports to the Board of Education. So it would be kind of uncomfortable for, obviously, if there was something going on with a board member, or even if a board member were to refer something on another board member, that would be kind of challenging for internal audit to try to handle, because they report to the Board of Education. So we are an independent entity that is responsible for looking at the whole system. But, again, it would be more of, is this a programmatic area? Is this a program area that has something is going wrong with it, misuse of funds, or it's not working as efficiently as it could, and we see it, or we have a complaint related to it. So it could be, again, proactive or reactive. It could be something that we're already seeing and that we want to get to, or it could be reactive, meaning that somebody has come in and complained about more of a bigger umbrella issue related to, like a set of a vendor out there, or how a contract was solicited, or what's going on across the whole special education program, or versus at something that's kind of at the school level, which would be more of like internal audit has been handling that.
And Chair Smith is back, and I appreciate it. I did just want you to really summarize whether or not internal audit and the ethics panel also sends you reports to investigate, right? That I know externally, but internally, you can get, a note from anyone in the system.
Anyone.
Okay.
Anyone. If and I'll use, and hopefully I'll use board liaison Walker as an example again. She could actually say, even if she didn't want to have her PGCPS parent hat on, if she didn't want to have her board member hat on, she could send something to us anonymously. So that would go for anybody from the ethics panel could do that. Anybody from internal audit could do that. And so if, and we would, take a look at what she sent in. Now, does it make it more difficult if we don't know, if we can't, like, let's say she sent in something, but there was some follow-up that we wanted to know or had some questions about, and if she's anonymous, then it makes it a little bit more challenging. So to answer your question, the ethics panel can send something absolutely to the OIC. Internal audit can and has sent stuff to the OIC. Just like sometimes the OIC may say, hey, this may be something that the internal audit may want to look at first because it's more of a school-based issue. We do it all the time related to, I'll give you an example. This is an exaggerated example, but I'll give you an example.
Mr. Turner, I am gonna cut you off because Ms. Hinton has her hand raised and Ms. Smith is back, so I do want to pass the meeting back to our chair, and she may throw it back to you, but I know Ms. Hinton also has her hand up, so thank you for allowing me to interrupt you to kind of jump in, and Chair Smith
Sure.
back in.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
just want to say
Mendenhall.
thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Hinton, sorry.
I just want to say thank you for being with us. I think you provided great information, and I have so much to say, but I think I would like to say it in private. And I also feel like what you say was a key. You will follow up. But my question is, are you like looking without a complaint, or you need to wait for a complaint for you to just take a look at something, like in a school, for example?
No, we don't have to wait for complaints to look at anything. We see stuff that we have, let's say concern about, or we want to give attention to, and we see it just in the normal living and breathing as part of interacting with PGCPS. So we don't have to wait for a complaint. If is that your question?
That is part of my question, because I have children at the school, to school, but I also go to multiple school as a part of the community. I like to go to many events where I talk to people, and I see many people complaining for the same thing that I am complaining, even it's not the same school. I feel like it's some aspect in the school they need to like be on the lookout, because it's something is happening that I'm not the only parent, but I am right now the one struggling with that concern. But I'm not going to go in details. But thank you. I think you provided great information.
Okay. Now keep in mind that I'm just going to say that sometimes if there is something going on and there is an office in PGCPS that really should have the first opportunity to try to handle the situation, then we will defer it to them. But remember what I said earlier, but we're going to monitor what they're doing. Now, if somebody came in and said, hey, we already have evidence that HR is not doing, this is an issue, HR is not doing what they're supposed to do, and this is what we're showing you, now we're going to just take it and investigate it, for example, right? Because it's already, like, it was an issue, then HR got involved, they didn't follow procedures, they didn't maybe follow the board's policies on how they were supposed to do stuff, or maybe there's something that's not going along with what the local, state, or federal laws are, or even Maryland State Department of Education regulations and rules. So then we're going to say, okay, they had their shot at that, now we're investigating. Does that hopefully that helps a little bit to clarify?
It does. Thank
Yes.
you. Ms. Lawrence?
So I just wanted to know, thank you for being here and for the presentation, a lot of good information. So I just wanted to be kind of clear and so like, how does your office ensure transparency without compromising privacy? Like how do you inform the parents and community members about like the outcomes without compromising privacy?
Great question. So what we've done, sometimes we actually have to generate more than one report, right? We may have to generate a report internally to get some change within the system. Not that long ago, we had a report that hasn't been released publicly yet, but there's a report that tells you the issues, but it's written in a way where it doesn't specify this particular school, but it tells you what the challenges are. And even when we send it back internally for the change, there's more information, but sometimes it still doesn't say exactly who the complainant is. It all depends on if the complainant is willing and how they feel when this is where things are. And so do you want us to divulge, and then you sign off on it that you're the complainant about this matter? Like, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say there's an employee issue, right? But this employee issue we discovered that this is a practice that is not being done across multiple sections, is being done inaccurately across multiple sections. So when we go to, let's say, HR or to the superintendent and say, this has to be changed, and then let's say they change it, right? So then the report would show, this is what we found, they changed it, and it would be more, when it was put out publicly, it would be more of a will protect the complainant, right? Because the complainant may not want to be known internally and externally, but the change has occurred, and that's what we want the public to know. So, and yeah,
That's helpful. Thank you.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. So I don't see any other hands. I think I may close out the questions. One of my questions was actually answered in a response already, and it was about a reporter having the ability to remain anonymous. The other two questions that I have, the first one is, if we suspect that there are inefficiencies with the program, does the reporter need to provide evidence related to the claim, or will you guys work to obtain that information? Can we just make the claim, essentially, is the question. And then, does the claim have to tie directly to fraud, waste, and abuse?
Good questions. So, like, let's just use the prior presentation. If somebody said, I believe that the redo of transportation isn't being done well, that's too broad, right? I would need more information than that. So would need more evidence, and also would obviously one of my staff would be reaching back out, right, to get more information, especially if it was not an anonymous reporting. And then that's first. So the more information you can provide, obviously, the better our starting point is. And okay, now Chair Smith, I forgot the second question. What was the second one?
Maybe I have three questions, but the second part to that is, does the claim have to tie directly to fraud, waste, and abuse?
No, absolutely not. It can be related to, there's a soft spot, or there's a gap in a policy and a procedure. This policy or procedure isn't being practiced the right way that it's written, and the expectation by the Board of Education or by the superintendent's administrative procedure. So it could be a practice. It could be a board policy that you believe that violates the state regulations, of course. So no, and I'm always looking for ways. We're here. The office is here as, like I said, it's known as an Inspector General office, is a watchdog office, the Integrity and Compliance office, but it's also here to help the system improve and to partner with. It's not always about. I know last fall I did a press conference and stuff like that. It's not about that all the time, right? We want the PGCPS to get better, and sometimes, the more I can do, and the more the system works with me, sometimes that keeps because remember, I'm independent office too, but sometimes that keeps the state IG out of the backyard, and that keeps the media out of, because I want PGCPS's reputation to go up at the same time, and that's what I want to contribute to.
Okay,
So
great. Thank you.
But you have to be transparent. I work for the public, so I have to be, and I'm talking about you all, more so the community than the media or anything like that. But the community and the stakeholders and PGCPS and the parents and primary and first and foremost, the scholars. We want them to get better and benefit.
Absolutely. So then, just one last thing. If a claim is substantiated, and that there will have to be corrective actions, how long do you guys monitor the school system to make sure that they keep that alignment in whatever that corrective action is?
Well, that all depends on the corrective action, right? There's I'll give you an example. I'm trying to make sure that this is like, no, I can't put that out there, but there's a particular office, right? And this office has had personnel shortages in it. It's an important office. It's had personnel shortages in it. It had a workload that was inherited by new people in this office. And when I came in and I took a look at it, and because there was a complainant, and when we analyzed it and did a dive into it, it seemed like that they were already correcting this problem. So I was able to go back to the complainant and give them a detailed assessment of PGCPS is already working on this. It's going to take more time, but we're monitoring it. And it's not going to be that, okay, well, we're going to get it done in the next 5 years. No. That's too long, right? So we're nudging, and especially if things are moving in the right direction. Sometimes we'll maybe bring it to the attention of other entities. Sometimes the county council has been complainants to the Office of Integrity and Compliance. So sometimes I have to update them on things that are being already done, or maybe the board needs to know, so it's always, there's a lot, but there's going to be a lot. Before the end of the year comes out, there's going to be quite a few things that are on my page that are going to come out. There's a couple investigations that, and some things we're working on that are close to being done. But again, unfortunately, there's no alerts. I think I've heard this before, this requested, can we get an alert when you put something out on your page? So there is no alert system that we have, but what I'm going to try to do, especially if I think you have an appetite for it, is I'm going to try to email you all, the community organizations, the big organizations, and say, hey, I just released this. So I'm gonna try to make that a routine for myself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see Ms. Millhouse has a question, and then we'll probably wrap it up here.
Yeah, I just want to just state quickly. I know you mentioned that you are serving us, the PGCPS stakeholders, and then you mentioned the media, and I'm just hoping that the budget that you have is PGCPS budget, right? It's not a budget from, I guess it is part of the county, but I mean, the media really has nothing to do with this. And so the work that you do, to me, really is about how you are helping us to get better, right? Helping us move from good to great, and not to exploit things that are happening, bringing them to the attention and where it needs to rise, right? And making sure that people are held accountable. But I'm always leery when people want to jump in front of the media to kind of, broadcast what is happening when we're not really getting the work done. So we're just saying, we have some issues, but what are the things that we're putting in place? So I just wanted to end on that and just say I'm really hopeful that the things that you're saying are really about how we're going to work together, be accountable, and improve on what's happening internally. So when the world sees PGCPS, they know that we are actually best in class.
Absolutely.
Thank you for ending on that
Well
note, Ms.
said.
Millhouse. Yes, well said. Mr. Turner, the presentation material was so great that we would like to know, could we get a copy of it? I assume this is not proprietary.
No. Yeah, I will. I'll send you guys a copy. Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. So that concludes our session this evening. So PCAC members, there will be some follow-up via email, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And to my guest speakers, thank you so much for attending this evening. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.